All right, because we're a bit pressed for time, so let's skip over a little bit, but I'll say some of this outside. There's a very strange sentence in the Torah, and it says that Moses was brought up in Paro's house. Paradoxically, even though that Paro was worried that there was going to be his astrologers or whatever soothsayers told him that someone's going to stand up and depose you. Someone's going to be born this year, whatever is depose you. And so Paro had all the male children killed, the Jews and the non-Jews. And strangely enough, Moses not only was not killed, he was saved. His mother put him in a whatever it is, in a little box or something, and put him in the river. But not only did he evade the decree, but he was brought up in Paro's house. Paro actually brought him up. Paro's daughter saw him and raised him. Okay, so it says that Moses grew up and he went out to his brothers. He sensed that he was a Jew, and he saw a Egyptian beating a beating a Jew, and it says that Moses killed the Jew, the Egyptian. He killed him. The next day, Moses went out and he saw two Jews fighting. And it says it was Datan and Aviram. Datan and Aviram, they make trouble all the time. Two Jews were fighting, and he said to one, Lama taket reyacha, why are you going to beat up your friend? He said he lifted up his hand to give him a punch. Lama taket reyacha, why are you beating your friend? And the one that was about to beat the other one said, what are you sticking your nose in for? Who are you? What do you want to do? You want to kill me like you killed the Egyptian yesterday? Oh, it says, Vayera Moshe, that Moses was afraid. Vayera Moshe, he was afraid. Vayomer, he said, Ochen nuda davar. He said, looks like it somehow or other, the word got out. There must have been witnesses. Maybe these guys were witnesses. They saw me kill the Egyptian yesterday. They saw me kill. He was afraid. Rashi gives another explanation also over there, but this is what we're dealing with here. So it says that Moses was afraid. Vayishma Paro, and then Paro heard about this. Seems what he heard about was that he heard, right? They told Paro that Moses killed the Egyptians, the Egyptian the other day. Vayibakesh laharog et Moshe, and he wanted to kill Moses. Vayivrach Moshe, Moshe had to run away. And ran away, and he went to the house of Yitro, and that he lived there in the house of Yitro, and that's the rest of the story. Okay, so what happened? Again, Moses saw an Egyptian trying to kill a Jew, beating up a Jew, and Moses killed the Egyptian. The next day, Moses saw two Jews fighting, and Moses said, stop fighting. And one of them turned to Moses and said, what do you want to do? Kill us like you killed the Egyptian? And Moses said, it's known. The thing is known. Right? Then he was afraid. He got afraid. And Paro heard about it the next day. After that, Paro heard about it, and he wanted to kill Moses. Okay. So we asked the question, was that good that Moses was afraid? Rashi says, Vayera Moshe, it says the simple meaning. And this, he was worried that he saw that there were evil people in Israel, and he said, now I see that if there's evil people like this, that they informed on me to Paro, so maybe the Jewish people won't be able to be redeemed, right? God wants to redeem the Jewish people, maybe they won't. Okay, so Rashi says, simply, Moses was afraid, right? Moses was afraid. He saw that it was advertised that he had killed this Egyptian, and now he was afraid. He was afraid that they were going to find out and they would kill him. So it says, the Rebbe like this. Okay, so there's two things. That's a simple meaning, right? The simple meaning is that Moses killed the Egyptian, and now he found out that it was known, and he was afraid. But then Rashi brings another explanation, and he says, "What's known?" Moses said like this: "I was wondering why the Jewish people are suffering so much, and now the thing is known to me. Now I know why. Why? Because these two evil Jews that were fighting with each other, they're spreading around the word that I killed the Egyptian yesterday." He says, now I understand why the Jews are suffering in Egypt. If there's evil people like this, Datan and Aviram, and they're going to inform on me because I helped another Jew, they're going to inform on me. Now I understand why the Jewish people are in such a terrible exile, right? If there's Jews that hate other Jews like that, so now I understand why there is this terrible exile. That's a simple. Okay, but nevertheless, what it comes down to is that Moses was afraid. Either he was afraid that Paro would find out about it, or he was afraid that maybe the Jewish people wouldn't be able to be redeemed. The Jewish people were bad. So maybe we can, that's what Rashi says. Maybe we can say that Rashi has a question. And the question is, what's Rashi's question? Rashi comes to answer any questions which a child would ask, a 5-year-old child would ask, about the simple meaning of the Torah. You read the Torah and you might have a question. What's the question? What difference does it make to tell us that Moses was afraid? And he said, "Achein nodar davar." Why didn't Moses get afraid? Just think about it. What happened? Moses killed the Egyptian. The next day he sees two Jews fighting, and he says, "Stop fighting." And they say, "Are you going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian?" And the next day, Paro knows about it. Paro wants to kill Moses, and Moses has to run away. What is it important to tell us that Moses got afraid and he said, "Oh, looks like it's known. Looks like it's known." The fact that Moses was afraid has no relevance to anything. No relevance to anything. Moses killed an Egyptian. The Jews found out about it. And the next day, Paro found out about it. Why did they have to tell us that Moses got scared? What's the thing about Moses getting scared? And you can't ask a question that this is just that Moses heard about it from Datan and Aviram because Paro heard about it and Moses had to run away. And the whole story is talking about these two telling us how bad Datan and Aviram were, right? Nevertheless, the fact of the matter is that this sentence that Moses was afraid, and he said, "Now it's known that I killed," it's totally unnecessary. Totally unnecessary. It could have just said that Moses killed the Egyptian. The next day, two Jews were fighting, and they said, "You're going to want to kill us like you killed the Egyptian," and that they knew about it. And then the day after that, Paro knew about it. That's all. Why do we have to know that Moses was afraid? Okay, so I want to skip a little bit over here. I want to skip. Okay, so first of all, there's two different opinions. One opinion says that Moses being afraid was a bad thing. It was a bad thing. He shouldn't have been afraid. Moses should have trusted in God. He should have trusted in God. The whole thing of Moses, he knew God exists, and he knew God is the boss, right? He knows that God, everything is controlled by God. And Moses did what he was supposed to do. He saved the Jew. A Jew was about to get killed by an Egyptian. He saved the Jew. He killed him. He said he killed the Egyptian. He killed the Egyptian by speaking. He said a word, and he killed the Egyptian. The Hargeni Ata Omer. He killed. But in any case, he saved the Jew, and he did the good thing, right? And now Datan and Aviram say, "We know about it." And the next day, Paro, why was Moses afraid? Well, he didn't trust God. What's going on? So he said, the Rebbe says, okay, so then the Rebbe goes into a big explanation. What does it mean to trust God? What does it mean to trust God? So the Rebbe says, well, trusting God means that you just believe that everything's going to be good, right? You just trust God that things are going to be good, that God will do good. And says the Rebbe, I'm summarizing. Says the Rebbe, but 1 second, maybe God wants to do good for you, but you're not worthy. Right? God wants to give you a blessing, but you did something wrong, and now you can't receive the blessing. And we see a similar thing by Yaakov. God promised Yaakov that he was going to be with him, and nevertheless, when Yaakov got the news that Esau was coming to meet him with 400 men, so it says Yaakov was afraid. So Yaakov was also afraid. We see then, and it says, why was Yaakov afraid? He said, because he believed in God, but Shema Yigro Machet. Maybe Yaakov thought, maybe I did something wrong. And because I did something wrong, as maybe I'm not worthy of God's blessing. And that is a good thing. Therefore, the fact that Moses and Yaakov were afraid shows their humility, that they were humble. And that's okay. He says, listen, I'm afraid. Maybe God doesn't want to do a miracle for me. And so, okay, now it's up to God. So God can do a miracle. What's wrong with that? Being afraid? What's wrong with it? It shows that he was very humble and he thought, God is great and God wants to help me but maybe who am I that God should help me, right? Well, why should I be helped by God? If God wants to do a miracle, then he should, but he should know that I'm not deserving of humility. Wonderful thing. Another opinion says, no, Moses was not supposed to be afraid, and neither was Yaakov. Moses was supposed to trust. He was supposed to trust God. But the Rebbe says, well, 1 second, how can he trust? He was trusting God, but he was saying that maybe I don't deserve it, and maybe he really didn't deserve it. God wants to do me a miracle, but I can't receive the miracle. Okay, so what then is faith? What does it mean to trust in God? Trust in God. The Rebbe did not say that here, but he said in other places that that's the basis of America. That's the greatness of the United States of America, is trusting in God. And where is it written? Trust is not the same thing as faith. Faith means that you believe in God, that God is the boss. Whatever happens, God is doing it. Trust means that you're sure that everything is going to be good the way I understand it's good. It'll be truly good in a way. Where is this written in America? On all this money. Money is not a thing that depends on faith. It depends on trust. Oh, bitachon means trust. What do you mean trust? I loan you $10,000. I trust you. You're going to give me the money back. It's not that I lend you $120,000, whatever, and I have faith that whatever happens is from the Lord. Right? That's true. Everything does happen from the Lord, but that's faith. But trust, bitachon, means that things are going to be good the way I understand is good. You're going to give me the money back. Whatever is going to happen is going to be good. Okay, how could it possibly be that Moses or even Jacob could really be sure that things are going to be good when in fact maybe they don't deserve to be good? Maybe something happened and they when God gave them the blessing, they deserved it. But afterwards, they did something wrong, who knows what, or just simply from humility, they're saying that if God gives me a blessing, it's only because God is giving me a blessing. But I don't have any merits of my own. Okay. Let me bring the 1 second. I'll get the story. There's the story of the Samach Tzedek. Let's see what we get over here. Here we go. Okay. Well, says the Rebbe, this is not a proper extension. According to what we said, it comes out that the whole idea of trusting in God simply is, 1 second, it's bigger, here we go. According to what we said, the whole idea of trusting God simply, by the way, if you want to learn this is in Likuti Sichot, I think Lamed Vav. Likuti Sichot Lamed Vav, right in the beginning. Is that right? Is that right what I said? Just 1 second, 1 minute. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Yeah. Trusting in God. Just give me a second here. Here it is. 1 second. I'm almost sure. Lamed Vav. I read this yesterday. Excuse me. Okay, I don't find it, but that's what it is. Lamed Vav. Okay, here it is. Here it says right here. Likuti Sichot Lamed Vav. There it is, right in the beginning. Okay. So according to what we said, it comes out that the idea of trusting in God simply means it's not relevant to the majority of Jewish people. Why? Because there's nobody that didn't do something wrong. So therefore, truly trusting in God means that you never did anything wrong. Is that right? But lipsok alatzmo, a person could say that he is fitting to receive God's blessing. And who can do a thing like that? Who knows that he's really worthy? The true idea is in the fact that if he's not meritorious to God's blessing, so therefore he's calm. Maybe the thing of trusting in God means that not necessarily that I am sure I'm going to receive a blessing, but nevertheless I can be calm to know that whatever God gives me is good. Oh, so therefore, even great tzaddikim, holy people, that they're totally complete in their service of God and they don't worry, maybe I did some sort of a sin. Only they are able to be certain that it will be good. So if so, trusting in God must mean that I trust in God that he'll do what I want, but if not, it for sure is going to be for my benefit. It's going to be for my benefit. And therefore, the whole thing of trusting in God, mostly the result is not what happens in the world, but my attitude. I can be calm. It says there's a book called Chovot Levavot. And it says that a person that trusts in God can be totally unified with God's kindness to a person who deserves it and also a person that doesn't deserve it. You should know that God does good without any, how do you say, discernment, unconditionally. If so, trust in God is on the fact that God does good to people that don't deserve it. That's what it says in the book Chovos Lubavitcher. That was a duty of the heart. It was Evan Pakuda, I think. Evan Pakuda wrote a book. It's very, there's a translation out, I think, that's very good recently. But if the idea is to trust, what does it mean to trust God? To trust God means that things will come out the way I want to. Of course, on the condition that I want the right things. But he needs money, someone is in a danger. Trusting God means I am certain that it'll come out the way I want, that I'll get out, that I'll get the money, etc., whatever. And this book, Chovot Levavot, even stresses it. Says that the whole idea of trusting God means that God does good to people that don't deserve it. So if so, Moses didn't know this. Moses didn't know that God does good to people that don't deserve it. Why was Moses afraid? Even if Moses did do something that he doesn't deserve, but God gives even to people that don't deserve. So if so, what's the whole point? Why does the Torah even tell us that Moses was afraid? What does that add on? So it says, even though that the mercy of God is to people that don't deserve it, nevertheless, it could be that maybe a person might get a punishment. Oh, so if so, what is the idea of trusting God that God will do good? 1 second. Sometimes people do bad things, and it is to their benefit that God punishes them. And it's to their benefit that they don't get the money that they need or that they don't get healthy or whatever. Could be. If so, what's the whole idea of trusting in God? What is trusting God? I'm sure that things will come out the way that, but maybe it's not to my benefit that things will come out the way that I want. Maybe it's not. Maybe God has his own way of fixing things up. And it's a good thing that I should lose my wallet or whatever it is, right? I'm trusting God that I'll get it back, but it's not. What is the idea of trusting? Here we go. Now we can understand that Tzemach Tzedek, the word of the third Rebbe of Chabad, that's brought by the previous Rebbe, that one person came in, he begged the Rebbe, please have mercy on, in this case, it was the person's son. He had a son, this man came into the Tzemach Tzedek, and he had a son that was critically ill, and all the doctors said that he didn't have a chance. And he went to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he said, please heal my son. And he said, tracht gut wird sein gut. If you think good, it's going to be good. This implies that the idea of thinking good, trusting God, this will bring to a good. Okay, what's the intention? In the whole idea of trusting in God that we're commanded to, it's a commandment. It's not just a detail in faith that everything is in the hands of God and that God does everything and God is merciful. The ein tzorech b'chiyuv miuchad. You don't have to have a special trust in that. I mean, there's already believing in God. That's already believing in God. What do you have? What's trust? What does that add on? Elachova, this obligation is, trust in God is a separate thing. And that the whole idea is that a person will rely on God until he throws all of his future on what happened on God. Like it says, Hashlech al Hashem yahavecha, throw yourself on God and it'll be okay. She'en lo shum mish'an, that there's no possible solution to his problem except for God. In other words, logically, he can't get saved. Nothing. The only hope he has is trusting in God. Let me just see something. Okay, good. Okay, here we go. The only trust he has is in God. V'yesh we can say that this is also the intention of what it says in the book, the Chovot HaLevavot, and the duties of the heart. That trusting in God is like a servant, a servant that like a servant that's tied up. Asher hu bebeita habor, he's like a slave. He's tied up in the pit in his master's house. Shakal, that his all trust is that what his master will somehow or other release him. No one else can help him, only his master can. The same thing is, therefore, it's understood that this trust that we trust in God is in a way where there's no way, according to nature, that we can possibly solve this solution. Right? The person is critically ill, all the doctors, God forbid, say that's it, he's finished. A person is being pursued, there's no way he can get out. God, even according to nature, there's no way that he can be saved. But nevertheless, he relies on God, and God he trusts God. This itself is the foundation of the idea of a trust that God will do good and a revealed way, even if a person is not fitting for it. Right? The person, he didn't do any commandments in his life. He only did sins. Nevertheless, he has trust in God that he's sick, he's going to get healthy. He deserves to be sick. He trusts in God. How can he trust? We'll see. That's what we're going to see. It doesn't mean that the trust that he believes that since God is kind without any limit to people that deserve it or don't deserve it, therefore he will receive the goodness of God, right? Because of God he's kind, so he just gives to everybody. But his trust is, the trust itself is a big work, is a big effort. It brings, and this trust that he trusts God, this brings to the kindness of God, and the kindness of God, this arouses God's kindness so that it'll be good results, whether he deserves it or not. In other words, by means that a person really, truly relies totally on God until he does not worry at all, he's certain that God will do good. So this arouses in a person itself that God will conduct himself in a way which is good above any logic. In other words, the trust itself changes the situation. That's the whole idea of trusting God, that a person has to throw himself totally on God, that God will do good in a revealed way. And when he does reveal only on God alone, without making any other calculations, then God will act accordingly, and God also won't make any calculations. That God will uh, protect him and have mercy on this person, even if according to nature it's not fitting. The person deserves to be punished, but because he trusts in God, he'll get out. And this is the explanation of the Tzemach Tzedek, that the trust itself becomes a new ingredient. It becomes a new force in the person's life and in the person's, how to say, future, destiny. Oh, and the trust itself adds a new element that opens up a new door. It's not just a side thing in believing in God. According to this, now we can say that this is the whole what it says that why the Torah tells us that Moses was afraid when he heard that the Datan and Aviram saying, "Oh, you want to kill me like you killed the Egyptian yesterday?" It comes to tell you a very important foundation in Judaism and in life and in trusting God. The trust itself causes the results, what they call a self-fulfilling prophecy. If he trusts God, then it's going to be good. If he doesn't trust God, then it won't be good. His trust is the thing that opens up the door. From what you know, that if you trust God, it will be good, that if you don't trust God, it will be bad. How do we see that? Because we see, what does it say? After it says that Moses was afraid of what was going to happen, in other words, he was worried maybe bad things are going to happen. He didn't trust God. Immediately after that, it says Moses was afraid, and he said this thing was known. Immediately afterwards, it says that Paro heard about it, and Paro wanted to run after him and kill him. If Moses would have, since Moshe was afraid for himself and he didn't trust in God, that God would save him and there wouldn't be any danger. Therefore, the fact is lack of trust itself, his lack of trust itself, this itself caused that Paro heard about it and wanted to kill him. So his worries about bad things happening, that actually his worries were what actually opened the door to bad things happening. And that's why Moses had to run away. And maybe we can even say that this was also what it says, Vayomer Achen Nodar, that Moses said. It said that Moses was afraid, and it doesn't tell us that he was just afraid inside. It said Moses said, Achen Nodar, the thing is known. Who was he talking to? Moses, there was nobody there. It's known. What did he say? Not only did Moses think in his heart that things were going to be bad, that Paro was going to find out, but he also said it. Shezeu Megadel, this even increases more the stress that Moses was not trusting in God. Not only was he worried in thought, but it also came out in speech, which is not the case. If Moses would have had total trust in God, and he wouldn't worry at all about his situation that he was in, that, like he said, that it's known that I killed the Egyptian, and that maybe it could have gotten to Paro, and this itself would have brought about that it would have been forgotten, and it would have been good in a revealed way. And there's true Datan and Aviram, they saw him kill the Egyptian, and they were, how do you say, the squealers, they were going to go and say, but if Moses wouldn't have worried, it could have been that they would have forgotten. Something else would have happened to them, whatever. From this, we learn a very important thing, me and you. What are we learning? When a person, pogea b'menius, if a person is confronted by difficulties in life, things that prevent him from doing Torah and commandments, A person should know that one way to remove all of these obstacles and stumbling blocks and confusion is your attitude. If a person has total trust in God, that God will help him and it'll be good until he will be b'menucha gemora, until he will be total, how do you say, calmness, without any worry whatsoever. Like it's understood that if you do everything that you're supposed to do according to your side, don't worry, that this trust in God, tracht good, thinking good, will make everything yes good. That it'll actually be this way physically. That it'll be negated all of the difficulties, all of the preventions, all of the problems, and it'll be a good in a revealed way, a tova nira v'nigla, a revealed good in everyone's view. And you'll see it below a sort of in this physical world. Now, just as going out of Egypt, it says shebezchut in the merit of trust that the Jewish people had, that they trusted God, they believed that they were going to go out of Egypt, so they went out. Right, where does it say that? 49 here it says in the book of the Kara Kemach by the Chida, I think, written by the Chida. Because of their trust and certainty, they left. So God said, these people, it's a good thing to redeem them because you see that they're open. They really want the redemption. They're trusting me that it'll happen. And so it will be to us that in the merit of our trust in God, the Jewish people. Now, how many people have to trust in God? The Rebbe said that there's already enough. Therefore, Krova Yeshua Tilavo. It says, God said, my salvation is going to come. Either you can say my salvation means that the salvation that's going to come from me, I'm going to take the Jewish people out of this terrible exile, or it means that God is in exile with the Jewish people. It says that God also has to be saved. Zochin, that God will redeem us. In a geula mitit vashlema b'meira b'yameinu mamash, by trusting in God that it's going to happen, it'll happen. A person can say, 1 second, I've trusted in God and it didn't. Oh, that thought is a lack of trust. And so that's what it's saying. Our trust in God becomes the catalyst that brings good, even if we don't deserve it, even if everything is against us. Nevertheless, if you think good, it will be good. Have a good, now we have to do the Yom Yom. Do the Yom Yom for today. Here we go. A minute.